All right, what is up, everybody? So this is going to be a clip from a live stream that I did the other day. I'm going to be making my schedules for Rockville and Sonic Temple. If you want to see more stuff like this live when it airs, go ahead and hit that subscribe button with notifications on so you can be there for the next stream. I'm going to plan on streaming at least once a week after these festivals are done. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to try and get a couple streams in beforehand as well. So I'm going to be going live maybe over this weekend and then probably sometime next week before I leave. I think I leave on Friday to head back to Florida. So we're going to be streaming a lot more on the channel. We get back to regular content here. I got some ideas for new stuff that we're going to be doing now that I am finished with my move. So enjoy this cut up stream clip and let me know what else you want to see going forward. We are officially 2 weeks out from Welcome to Rockville and Sonic Temple, and last week set times dropped so we can start making our schedules. So today I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to show you the first way that you can actually make your schedule, which is much easier than what I'm about to do, but I think very few people are probably in the situation like I am where you're going to be going to both festivals. You're probably going to one or the other. But both festivals have an official app. I have them both up on my screen right now. You can go right here into schedule, and let's say we'll skip the pre-party day. So let's say on Thursday, you already know, all right, I'm going to go see Guns N' Roses. You click plus right there. You get options to send you a reminder at whatever time you want. For me personally, I usually do about 15 minutes before because I'll go through and also do this on the day of. Usually I'll do this based on the schedule that I make, just so I can kind of keep my idea in mind of how I'm going to get to each stage and all that kind of stuff. So let's do 15 minutes before, and then if you go to this spot right here. Oops, was that it? All right, I didn't do Guns N' Roses. I did Ice Nine Kills. They do Guns N' Roses, and then you click right here up at the top. There you go. That's only the bands that you want to see. You can also look at it like this, which will give you a view of the actual schedule as it's laid out and show you which stage as time's kind of going through the day. It's kind of like oriented like the schedules that we're going to look at to make ours. So same thing in this Sonic Temple app over here on the right. Let's say on Thursday, I already know I'm going to go see My Chemical Romance. I can schedule a 15 minutes. Well, I'm not going to set any reminders because I forgot to enable notifications on my iPad. But as you can see right there, boom. I'll go through another example here in just a second. You can see after I made a full day schedule. So as you can see now on the Sonic Temple app, I have made a schedule. This is not a schedule that I'm actually going to follow because we'll be going through and actually making that here in just a few minutes. But just to get an idea of having, not overlapping times in different stages. So I just went through and picked a few bands. And as you can see, if you go into this view, you can still see it time-wise, so you know exactly where you're going. So, like, I would say from the used, I'm going to the temple stage, I'm going down to the altar stage after Flyleaf. And then after that, I'm going back to the cathedral, and I accidentally just closed the Rockville app. But anyway, all-time low, then I'm going to go out to the Citadel and the Sanctuary. I'm going to come back to Temple, Cathedral, Temple to finish off the night. That would just be an example of what my schedule would look like if I had picked those bands. So with that said, that's going to be your best as at the day festival option. Just it's easy. It's kind of concentrated right here. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go through into each individual day and map out what my schedule is going to look like on the actual photo. We're just going to highlight. So I've actually made a library of sorts of just these 8 days individual. I'm probably not going to the pre-party for Rockville. I don't know if I'm going to be making it on time because as of this week, I just moved out of Florida. I will be going back for the festival because everything is already paid for. So I don't 100% know travel plans as far as returning, but I might not make it till Thursday. I will be there by Thursday for sure. So let's assume I'm going to be for all 4 days of both festivals, which might not end up being the case, but we're going to plan as if that is the case. So right off the bat, one thing that I did kind of notice and point out, to me was that, or as I was saying before anyway, Guns N' Roses is going to have an extended set time, so there's quite a bit of overlap with other groups. I was expecting Ice Nine Kills to be a little bit earlier, and there's a little bit more overlap than I was anticipating. There's 3 different sets that are going to be going on during Guns N' Roses set at some point or another. So for me, I am going to be marking them down as a band that's almost like a must-see for me. I'm going to pick how's this? That's not the right setting at all. How's this blue look? Yeah, blue looks pretty good. So just to give you an idea, we'll zoom in a little bit as well. Let's make it look a little bit prettier. So for that being the case, I'm probably going to catch most of, if not all, Guns N' Roses set. I'm probably going to eliminate the possibility of seeing anybody else just because they're like on my kind of bucket list. So the rest of the day, there's a lot of interesting conflicts for me. For instance, the end of Story of the Year conflicts with the beginning of Five Finger Death Punch. Now, I know not a lot of people, they're a very divisive band in a lot of senses. I just accidentally highlighted some random part of the screen. We'll go to the early part of the day now. For me, this is going to be an early day because I would like to see all the remains. Now, that's assuming that they actually show up because they've been announced for the Welcome to Rockville lineup now for like 3 years and they haven't actually ever performed. We're going to, can I add a different color? This blue is a little bit dark. Let's see. Oh, actually, we can lighten it a little bit. Let's see now. That's not exactly what I wanted to do, but it does look a little bit better. Yeah, we'll do that. All right, so after that, one of the bands that was just recently added was Cartel over here on, what is this stage called again? This is the Garage stage, okay, which is now tented this year. So the good thing about this is that, all right, my mirroring software stopped working, so I don't know 100% where I left off, but the good thing is this Garage stage this year is, or the Garage stage every year, I guess, is right next to the Apex stage, or this is not Apex, this is stage 2. What is this called? The Octane stage. I was like, I don't want to scroll up again. So it won't be too much of a run even if I miss the first couple songs from Cartel. They've been a band that I've wanted to see for a very long time. So they were just recently added to the lineup, which is great because it creates less of kind of a gap for me. Now, the first, like, real conflict for me during this, because there's quite a few that overlap a little bit for me, is Anberlin and Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin Evening. I really wanted to catch them again. I saw them at a casino show a couple years ago, and they were really good. So I'm going to try and catch most of their set as much as I can, and then run back over to the Garage side to catch Senses Fail. I'm going to catch a little bit of Anberlin probably as well, just at the beginning. But it is a long walk from the Apex stage over to the Garage stage. The Garage stage is by the turn 3 entrance, right? Which is like all the way on the other side of the, like, it's basically on the opposite corner of the track. So it's about a 5 to 7 minute walk. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So, you know, well, I'm going to figure out whether I want to leave maybe a couple minutes early for the last couple songs or something like that. I've seen Senses Fail 4 or 5 times as well, so it's not really like I'm missing a whole lot. After that, I want to schedule in a little bit of a break because I like to keep breaks about every 2 to 3 hours, at least a little bit in there. So actually, I just realized a little bit of a gap between Cartel and Anberlin, but it's going to be hot during that part of the day. I don't know the exact weather forecast. It's a little bit too far out to kind of know by now, but I'm expecting to be in the high 80s, low 90s with a decent amount of humidity. Pretty typical Florida weather for that time of the year. Like I said, I've lived there for many years up until very recently, so I kind of know what to expect, and I know that it's going to get very hot, so maybe this is a good time to kind of dip into grandstands for a little bit. But if not, we'll just schedule this as if not. I'm going to catch a little bit of We the Kings, probably most of their set, honestly, and then I'm going to jump back to the Octane stage because I want to see Amon Amarth. And then for the next slot after that, there's not really another conflict for me. I'm just going to catch Alice Cooper. There's not really a whole lot of bands that I'm interested in playing at that time. I know, State Champs, I've heard a few songs. I'm not really familiar with Deicide, so that one's kind of easy for me. The next slot has a couple groups that I'm kind of tossing back and forth, Apocalyptica, I think I talked about a little bit when I was doing the tier list, is like I'm not 100% sure what their set list is actually going to look like. I'm going to create a new color for now. I'm going to do green, and I want to try and make sure this is a little bit lighter. I'm going to do green for ones that I'm not 100% set on, and I'm going to highlight them, and I'm going to highlight Stained. The Wonder Years I like, but I'm not going to highlight them. And then the next one that I'm going to highlight in blue is going to be Story of the Year, one of my favorite bands. Definitely going to try and catch as much of their set as possible. Now, this is going to sound funny probably, but I would like to catch the beginning of Five Finger Death Punch's set. So, just because a lot of the songs I like from them are all played right at the beginning. They play the few songs that I do like. I like quite a few songs from them. They just don't play a lot of the stuff that I like in their set list anymore. However, based on recent set lists I've been looking at, almost all the songs that they do play that I like are all pretty much right at the beginning. So it does kind of suck a little bit with the timing there because I would like to catch them. But we're going to highlight them in blue. They're pretty much, one, because they're right there next to the garage stage, so it won't be too much of a walk. And then I've already seen a Treyu. They're good, don't get me wrong, but I've had more opportunities to catch them. I haven't seen Five Finger Death Punch in a while, and the one time I did see them was at Rockville, and it was plagued by a bunch of issues. So hopefully this time around can be a little bit of a redemption arc for them. And like I talked about before, I would like to catch all of Guns N' Roses sets. So I'm going to keep a little bit of a green marker on Death Clock and Mayday Parade. Maybe I might try to catch a little bit of the beginning. But these are also groups that are playing at Sonic, so I'm going to make a few adjustments to this based on what I see going on at Sonic Temple. So for now, this is kind of what we're looking at. Pretty packed day. Day one, got a lot going on. Day two, for me, is probably the weakest day of maybe any of the festivals, probably. Like any of the 8 days across both. Not a whole lot here that personally interests me. A few bands are different here. The Who was added. I think there's a couple others on this day as well, there was some movement going on. I don't 100% remember. I know Biffy Clyro dropped out. That was the one thing that affected me the most. But I do think this is still going to be a decently long day for me. Just kind of start around like the midpoint of the day, if I can ever actually open this up. This is yeah, okay. I was like, this is giving me some trouble. So this is a day where there are no headliners playing at the same time. So by default, it kind of circling Foo Fighters. Again, for me personally, probably one of the weaker headliners. I've seen them already. They're not a band that I think are, I feel like there's not a whole lot of variety in their live show necessarily. Even though I have only seen them once, I can say that pretty confidently if I can ever highlight. Geez. That's probably why. I probably need to do that for big names, There we go. It looks a little bit better. Yeah. All right. And then we can lower that back down. So they're not a group that I think is going to be like one show to another is so much different or anything like that. It's kind of, they have a lot of songs. You're going to know all the songs. And they're good. Like I still like Foo Fighters, but it's part of the reason why I'm not not as excited about Friday as I am about other days, because they're, to me, the weakest headliner or the least interesting headliner. I'm sure probably people feel that way about I saw My Chemical Romance on their tour already, but it's going to be kind of the same thing since they're still doing the Black Parade. So I mean, I think that's kind of just depends on your experience with these groups, how you're going to feel about that. So we'll start at the beginning again. Kind of the first, there's a few bands early in the day that I would be curious to see. Like I wouldn't mind seeing Egypt Central. I wouldn't mind seeing Sick Puppies, even though again they have a new lead singer. But again, knowing that Thursday's a long day, and then also knowing that Saturday is going to be a decently long day as well, I think anyway. We'll kind of get to that. I'm going to start my planning around 3 o'clock, let's say. And we're going to go first with Non-Point. That'll be my best case scenario. If we make it there early, we'll go ahead and catch their set. So they're on the garage stage. I want to try, if I can, throughout the weekend to catch at least 2 sets at every stage. I don't know if that's going to happen 100%, but we'll see. And some of this is going to be based on how I kind of had them tier listed in my head. Some is going to be based on if I've seen the artist or not, or how many times I've previously seen the artist. So I'll kind of get into that when we get into specific conflicts later on. So after Non-Point, not necessarily anybody I'm interested in seeing again until 4 o'clock. I do want to check out a little bit of Dope at the very least. And then this is a newer group that I've been checking out recently, and people have really pointed out that they're worth checking out. The Warning, I want to catch them live and catch their set. And then probably around 5:15, this 5:15 slot, I want to see 2 groups. Let me go back to the green that I was at before. We'll put the Warning in green as well, because that might be subject to change as well. It's going to depend on merch. I do have to set aside like a merch day for some of these, because there's some artists I do want to get merch from that are not headliners, and I'm going to need time for that. So maybe I'll actually do that on this day. We'll see how that goes. But I would like to see Drowning Pool, but I would also like to see Hollywood Undead. So more than likely what I'm going to do is probably catch most of, if not all, Drowning Pool set, and then head over to catch the last little bit of Hollywood Undead. Based on kind of some cursory research that I've done, looking at their set list from last year, as well as a couple other set lists that they played, Hollywood Undead plays the most of the songs I'm going to want to hear later in the set anyway, or at least like after that kind of time frame will be up. So catch, the 30 to 35 minutes of Drowning Pool and then go catch Hollywood Undead on the way back. Wouldn't be too bad for me. Another one that I'm kind of deciding between would be, I mean, it's not probably really the decision, to be honest, because I've actually seen Saliva. So we'll go ahead. We'll blue Poppy. I would say it's kind of a conflict with Saliva because I do like Saliva and I actually do like their new singer, but I've seen them previously. I have seen Poppy, but not for a long time, so I'd like to check her out. I've seen Saliva more recently. And then for me, there's not necessarily anybody that I'm super interested in this next kind of time slot. I know that people have a very high opinion of Paleface Swiss and the new Static X, but I'm probably going to see Parkway Drive just because I'm not super into them, but it is their only U.S. Show this year, and I've never got to see them. So there's a few bands over the years that I've gotten to see live that have kind of flipped my opinion of them or made me like them more. So I'm going to try and check out. I still got a couple weeks to check out some more of these groups and fill in some of these slots. After that, probably The Offspring for me. There's a small chance I might check out a little bit of Lorna Shore or Seven Dust, but mostly probably going to be The Offspring. They're a band that has been one of my favorites over the years, even though I've seen them quite a few times. They're one of those bands that I'll keep going back to. That's also a thing too. Even if I have seen the band already, if they're one of my favorite bands, then they'll probably take precedence over some other groups that I haven't seen already. So Green, I'm gonna go. So between Turnstile and Zach Sabbath, I'm not 100% sure. Now this is a really tentative green because, to be honest, this is most likely a blue for Turnstile, but I might come back and change my mind. Just because Zach Sabbath, they're a little bit of a novelty I wouldn't mind seeing, and I'm not a huge fan of Turnstile. I like them, but I think I like them more in theory than I do actually listening to the music. There's not a band that I go back to a whole lot, honestly. So, all right, this Saturday has a lot of conflicts I wasn't really expecting to have to deal with, just the way that they were doing the scheduling, because this year, typically the Vortex stage, which is the one in yellow, would be swapped with the times on the Inferno stage, which is in red, which would mean that Simple Plan was playing at the same time as Breaking Benjamin. For me, that wouldn't be as much of a conflict because Breaking Benjamin is one of my favorite bands of all time, and I will definitely be seeing them as many times as I can, given that they don't necessarily conflict with another band that would rank higher on that list. Like, if they're playing at the same time as Bring Me the Horizon, that would not be a discussion for me. I would see Bring Me the Horizon 15 times out of 10, but given that Simple Plan and Breaking Benjamin playing at the same time, that would have been a little bit easier to solve. Now, I do like, we can just, let's get these couple out of the way first. So obviously, make this big again. Obviously, we're going to be seeing Bring Me the Horizon. I've talked about it quite a few times in these videos, but one of the best live bands we have and just one of my personal favorite bands of all time. And then, like I said, we're going to be seeing Breaking Benjamin as well. Might leave Breaking Benjamin a couple songs earlier to kind of settle into a good spot for Bring Me the Horizon. We'll see kind of how that goes, because I'm probably more inclined to see more of Breaking Benjamin's set this time around versus when they're at Sonic Temple. Just because we'll get to that when we get to that. But anyway, so for me, one of my last kind of conflicts I've still been trying to figure out is going to be Motionless in White versus Simple Plan. I've been getting into Motionless in White a lot recently, and for me, they're a newer group, like in terms of getting reacquainted with what their live set list looks like now. When I was in high school, middle school, even probably 10, 15 years ago, almost at this point, because what year are we in? 2026. So we're talking probably like 2011, 2012, that I was listening to Motionless in White, and that was during their very early phase. Obviously, they don't play a lot of those songs now. They changed a lot as a group. They've evolved. Very different discography than what it was looking like back then. Same with, a couple bands we'll talk about, like Pierce the Veil. Obviously, Bring Me the Horizon's gone through that same evolution. So pretty similar bands in that respect. And actually, they're touring together on their own shows. I've gotten more into them recently. But for me, Simple Plan, I've been listening to for a very long time. And I only like, granted, the first couple albums from them, but that's mostly what their live show still draws from. They have not really had as much success following that. I guess their third album did pretty decently well. It's got a couple big songs on stream, like Jet Lag. But I saw Simple Plan once already, but I did not really get to see them the way that I would like to, because we were late for the show. We were in a rush, and we missed the first 10 minutes of the set, so I didn't get to hear the first 2.5 songs that were like halfway through Addicted, I think, when we came in. So I missed I'd Do Anything. I missed Shut Up, which are still, I think, at the front of their set list for these type of acts. They were opening for The Offspring when I went to see them. So we were in concessions at that time. Anyway, I'm probably going to, based on the way the schedule looks and the interest of being able to see everybody, because Simple Plan conflicts with Shinedown on the Sonic Temple side, more than likely going to end up seeing Simple Plan here at the Vortex stage and catching Motionless in White at Sonic Temple, mostly also because there's not really anybody that conflicts with them on that side that I want to see. So that's my tentative plan. And then kind of the same thing here. So Lamb of God is playing at the same time as both Switchfoot and Dragon Force. And so I'm still kind of trying to decide my approach for this specific part of the day. And where I've kind of ended up at is I like Lamb of God, and I still think they're one of our better live groups, but I don't think that the Sonic Temple side is going to have as much of a conflict for me. We'll see how it looks once we get over there. I haven't spent as much time with the Sonic Temple schedule. I've looked at the Rockville schedule a lot more because of my specific concerns with these 2 days, this day and Thursday in particular. I thought were going to be troublesome. So, all right, moving on from there. Before that, there's kind of a gap. I'll catch at least the first part of Switchfoot, and before that, I'm definitely going to be catching Flyleaf. So I was kind of debating originally back and forth between them and Plain White Tees. And where I settle with them, I've seen both of them once, and Flyleaf I'll definitely be able to catch at Sonic Temple based on what I've seen. But I like Flyleaf more than I like Plain White Tees, and I got my fix of Plain White Tees when I saw them at Warped Tour, so I'm content with that. I would rather catch Flyleaf another time. So we'll see. My approach on that might change when it comes to the actual festival based on how things work out that day. Before that, though, I will be catching 10 Years. They're a band that I've wanted to see for a very long time. I've liked them since middle school, high school range. I have a similar attachment to them that I do with Flyleaf, where I don't like a whole lot of their stuff, but the stuff I do like a lot, and I've wanted to try and catch them for a long time. Just hasn't really ever lined up. So they're going to be kind of, I think actually, I'm actually going to see a group on every stage this year, or this day. So that's kind of funny. So, all right, 10 Years. And before that, now really is probably just going to be a downtime scheduled for me. But I'm going to highlight Waka Flocka because I don't anticipate the downtime needing that long, because there'll be about an hour and 20-minute layoff between the last band that I want to see before and 10 Years, between 3:25 and 4:45. So I'll highlight Waka Flocka because if I do finish everything I have to do at the time, like let's say eating, going to the bathroom, or anything like that, that would be my kind of schedule break at that time. And then again, obviously there'll be a schedule break between Flyleaf and Switchfoot, and then we'll kind of muscle out the rest of the night. We'll be good there because I can just run to the bathroom at any given time. But I already know I'm going to need a couple of schedule breaks in there as well. So before Waka, we'll go with 303. They're going to be my kind of like, if I need to be there by this time to see them. I caught them at Warped, but it was incredibly crowded, and I would like to get a better view of them with much less people, which I know will be the case here. Before that, there's only a couple groups that I really want to try and catch. I would like to catch Breathe Carolina or Magnolia Park. Unfortunately, they're playing at the same time. We'll highlight those in green, and I'm going to kind of play it by ear as far as that goes. The unfortunate part with this is that for whatever reason, even though I do feel like Vortex and Inferno, so these two stages are next to each other, and I do feel like they're not that far away from Apex. They still feel much closer to Octane. I don't know, I should know by now, but I don't know how true that actually is in reality, but it's just the way that the grounds are set up. It just feels easier to navigate. I don't know if I can quite get down there, but my first group of the day, unfortunately, I don't know how this happened, but I have a conflict at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. But they made it easy for me because Red's lead singer just left the group. So that makes it a blue for Galactic Empire. which is a Star Wars cover metal band. So I'm definitely gonna be checking them out. So this is gonna be a full stack day. I'm probably gonna be here, pretty close to when gates open. If I am there at that time, if I'm there that early, I'll probably catch Framing Hanley's set as well. But that's not like a priority for me. I like to get in and get settled in and stuff like that. And then there will be a whole hour in between. You know what? I'm probably gonna catch. I'll highlight them too. I'm probably gonna catch Memphis Mayfire. Where am I going? Why am I forgetting how to use my iPad? All right, I'm probably gonna catch Memphis Mayfire as well. We'll go ahead and actually we'll give them the blue. There's not really anybody. Well, there kind of is somebody else playing at that time, but I'll give them the blue anyway. There we go. Looks great. I just saw. I might catch Psycho Stick too. Oh, we'll see. We'll move on for now. Sunday. Did they change? They changed this. Okay. So when this was originally announced, so I just downloaded these today for this video from the website. So when this was originally announced, Vortex had Slaughter to Prevail playing at the same time as My Chem. And there was obviously like a lot of outrage because it's kind of just unnecessary. Like, I don't necessarily know. I wasn't necessarily. What the heck just happened? I wasn't necessarily anticipating that level of overlap between those fan bases, but hey, this kind of is what it is, I guess, at this point. So now most people are saying it shouldn't really be a big deal because you can just go to the pre-party because there's a Slaughter to Prevail box or bare knuckle boxing / performance pre-party on Wednesday night. That's kind of weird. It runs counter to the actual Rockville pre-party, which I find very interesting, but obviously not a solution for everyone. Not everyone's going to arrive that day. Some people can only go on Sunday. So they were going to hope they could see that Slaughter to Prevail and My Chemical Romance. That's great. Now, whoever was happy that they weren't conflicting with the Day to Remember is probably disappointed. But for me, a Day to Remember is a must-see, and I'd still left that if the max option. So we'll take that off real quick. This is going to be a day of a lot of running back and forth for me. So this honestly for me is a straight pretty much main stage day, and I have to find time to kind of make breaks in there. I'm thinking probably Under Oath and All Time Low are going to end up being the two where I might dip out for 10-15 minutes, do what I have to do, and go from there. But yeah, it's a pretty busy day, and that's where I'm going to finish the scheduling because I don't anticipate myself being there much earlier. Based on the fact that Saturday's going to be a really long day. I would like to, maybe get there a little bit later on Sunday. And again, weather is going to play a big part in all this stuff too. But, it's kind of is what it is at this point. But I would love to see the Ataris. I wouldn't mind seeing from first to last if I do get there a little bit earlier. But there's a big layoff in between the Atari set and Dance Gavin Dance. And I'll probably be better served getting a little bit more rest that day. So that's kind of my tentative plan. I did not highlight Yellow Card fully, but I guess you kind of get the point. So there's not really conflicts for me, to be honest, because I'm not super interested in a lot of the groups. Like I wouldn't mind seeing Architects, Cold Chamber, Whitechapel. I think they're all good bands, but I like Yellow Card and Rise Against a lot more than any of them. So for me, it's not much of a discussion. We'll move on to Sonic Temple now. I'm going to kind of keep in mind some of my decisions from earlier. So at this festival, unfortunately, Slaughter Prevail is going to have to conflict with My Chemical Romance. This is kind of how it is. What I actually am in favor of bands playing at the same time as the headliner, although I do feel like it is kind of a bad, maybe not great fan experience. I do feel like they do a good job of countering with groups that make sense to counter with, if that makes sense. Like, this festival is going to have much more of a mixed audience than like When We Were Young, right? It doesn't make sense for When We Were Young or Sick New World to schedule somebody at the same time as like your headliner. But for these rock festivals, like the Welcome to Rockville, the Danny Wimmer rock festivals, it does kind of make sense to do this, and I'm for it personally. Although I get it, it's not ideal if you're a fan of both. Like, let's say if you're a fan of My Cam and Slaughter to Prevail, if you're a fan of My Cam and death metal, it's not great. But either way, it is what it is. So we can continue to use blue. I'm gonna have to change colors at some point because these set times were released with the craziest color scheme ever. We just go through this real quick. So like this is yellow and black. There's another yellow and black, which is fine. Then we got red and white, and then we have black and white. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do on this day. So luckily, I think this is the day that I probably care about the least. So that as far as Sonic goes, like. So we can keep using blue for now. We might have to adjust the colors. So again, probably going to see My Chemical Romance. I mean, I'm not really a whole lot of question for me there. And then we're probably going to see Breaking Benjamin. Before this, I'm going to highlight Pierce the Veil because they're one of the main reasons that I'm going to both festivals, even though I don't really have to. But I want to try and wipe out as many bands as possible, as many different bands as possible. So I'm going to try to catch Rise Against, but essentially my plan being here, I want to be in a good spot for Pierce the Veil when it starts because of the going in and out of the stadium. I have not been to Sonic Temple previously, so this will be kind of my first experience with the getting in and out of the stadium, and expecting there to be a pretty decent amount of foot traffic if I stay all the way to the end. So my basic goal would be probably on Sunday, I want of Rockville to kind of catch all of Rise Against set, or at least as much of it as possible. And then maybe, what day does Yellow Card play? On Friday, I know I'm going to see the full Yellow Card set, so I can see the end. I might leave a couple songs early, even though it's kind of sacrilegious to leave before Ocean Avenue. But again, I can kind of catch that. I know they'll play that here. And so my plan would probably be to catch all of Rise Against set on this day at Rockville, and maybe miss a little bit at the beginning of Day to Remember. I've seen Day to Remember 5-6 times. They're one of my favorite bands, and I would like to catch the full set, obviously. But I would like to catch a full Rise Against set. Is another one of my favorite bands, and I've never got to see them. So this day at Sonic Temple, it's a shorter set, so I might catch a little bit of it, and then maybe run for Pierce the Veil about halfway to 3/4 of the way through, maybe like 10 minutes early, and get settled inside the stadium. I'm a little, I would like to navigate in and out of the stadium with a decent amount of ease. So with that being the case, I'm still going to highlight them, obviously, because I'm planning on seeing them. But All Time Low and the U's are one of my, I am going for them also. I wish their set was 50 minutes, but it is what it is. I get 40. Actually, just realized Coheed's getting a longer set, which is a little upsetting. But we'll highlight Coheed, and we will highlight Flyleaf, but I'm not necessarily planning on being there. Oh, and I'll highlight Hawthorne Heights as well. I'm not necessarily planning on being there this early, but just in case, and we'll do Egypt Central, because why not? Is there anybody else down here? Not that I really see. Okay. So that's kind of tentative day one plan, mostly Temple and Cathedral. Pretty boring, right? Let's go to Friday. Now, Friday is the day that I kind of have the most questions about what I'm going to do. There's a few different options that I'm going to kind of go for. So for one, I'm probably going to catch Shinedown. I would like to see them again. I've seen them quite a few times, but I would like to see them again. We'll go down here. This is going to be the first that I'm going to kind of come back to, is the Sublime versus Story of the Year. I saw Sublime last year at Rockville, but Story of the Year is getting a 45-minute set, and I would really like to check that out. I would like to see Seven Dust as well. This is going to be mostly for groups. This is kind of hard to tell the difference. Yeah, I can't. Now that this color is clashing too hard. So let's keep that. Let's keep that blue, and then maybe use red. So red might work. If it's a light red, yeah, I like that. Oh, that's actually a better color for that. Okay, I kind of like that. And then, so we're seeing Stained. Was I seeing Stained? I can't remember. Did I put Stained on? Now I'm going to go back. Did I put Stained on my list? It was Stained versus Apocalyptica. So, Apocalyptica here, where are they playing? I know their set's a little bit shorter. Where are they? They're playing at the same time as Godsmack. So I actually might do that instead. That might settle that conflict for me. So we're already seeing Stained. Let's proceed as if we are already seeing Stained. We'll go ahead. We'll highlight Seven Dust as a blue. I'm going to highlight Atreyu as a blue, but I'm probably going to leave Atreyu maybe a little bit early to see Seven Dust, or maybe stay till the end of Atreyu and catch the last little bit of Seven Dust. I don't know how exactly these stages are laid out. I have not really looked at the map. But we'll go ahead and catch Chevelle. I'm going to highlight Hailstorm. I'm probably not... This is probably going to be a break time for me, similar to like All Time Low. This will be a band that I can kind of use this as like a, okay, I have a little bit of break in the action going on. We'll check this out. Then Yellow Card, like I said, I'm definitely going to catch them here because they're going to be kind of getting the short end of the stick on the other end. The next one for me that is a little bit of a conflict, we'll go with Stone Temple Pilots and Dope. I like Stone Temple Pilots, but obviously with their new singer, it's not as much of a draw for me personally. What I will say though is I do like their music more. So Dope, it might depend on what ends up happening with Rockville, if I see them or not, and kind of how long these walks are. Like I said, I got to take a better look at the map to kind of get an idea of where my navigational optimizations are going to be for Sonic Temple, because this will be my first Sonic Temple. I've actually never been to Sonic Temple. I've been to Rockville. This will be year 6 for me. I've been every year that it's been at Daytona. So, all right. And then before that, I'm not necessarily planning on being there this early, but I'll highlight Daughtry. I would like to see Daughtry at some point. Just never gotten the chance to. And then maybe highlight Everclear. I was not planning on this being. I'm not planning on this being this early of a day, necessarily. But we'll go with that for now. I'm definitely not gonna be. I'm not gonna plan on being there before that. If I am, I already know. I'll just, I mean, Hinder doesn't have their singer, so it just sounds really weird now. But I kind of like this because I don't get to see Seven Dust. I won't get to see Seven Dust. I don't know if I really talked about it, but Seven Dust conflicts with the end of the Offspring. Otherwise, it'd be perfect if it was at that slot that Zach Sabbath's at. When I first saw this, I was like, that's perfect. I can see Seven Dust instead of Turnstile. Nope. All right. So that's our Friday. I feel pretty good about that. Honestly, Friday was a day that when I saw it originally, I wasn't super excited about, but I think that like swapping the Offspring for Chevelle kind of gave me a renewed excitement. I wish Atreyu was playing a little. I wish the Atreyu time slot was a little bit different though. Like if Atreyu was playing 7:10 to 7:45 or 7:10 to 7:50, and then Seven Dust was playing like 7:50 or something. I don't know. I feel a little bit better about that being the case. All right, Saturday. We got to find some new colors probably for our highlighter because I don't think this is going to work, but we'll see. All right, let's try with the blue first. Oh. All right, so Saturday. We're going to try blue, see how this looks. That's okay. I don't know. Red's probably not going to work. Let's do maybe... Is yellow going to work? Nope. Definitely can't see that. Black. That's not too bad. Actually, I can work one. No, because the black looks too similar to the blue, I think. I don't know why I was highlighting Marilyn Manson. That was definitely not what I meant to do, but... Black. Let's try purple. Okay. That's not dark enough. I'm gonna try the dark purple. That's too dark. All right. That works. I mean, this is a tough color to try. This is a tough one to try and let's just hope we don't need to use it. How about that? That's a better idea to me. All right. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter day for me, I think. This is mostly a Good Charlotte is definitely in there. Whoops. Why is that so? Did I change? I think I changed the opacity on that. Good Charlotte, Motionless. I'm going to catch For Sure on this day. And Motion City Soundtrack is another like must-see for me. The only kind of thing that I would change if I could is I'd probably swap Mayday Parade with Architects because I would like to see Mayday Parade. But I like to see Good Charlotte more. I've seen Mayday Parade a few times. I've only seen Good Charlotte once. But I might still try and catch most of their set. I might still try and catch some of their set, especially after. Like depending if I can catch, like, let's say 10, 15 minutes of it or 20 minutes of it. Maybe I'll leave Good Charlotte a few minutes earlier, depending on what their set looks like at that time. Also, because I'll be seeing Good Charlotte later this year when they're with Avenged Sevenfold anyway. So, that would work out for me too. I also wouldn't mind seeing Amity Affliction. And then Alter Bridge, I think, is my other one. But I guess kind of the goal for this day is just this is the take it easy day, but like within the context of the actual festival. I want to compare. So Motionless in White's playing at 5:20 here. What time are they playing here? 8 o'clock. Okay, so that's actually something to kind of keep in mind. Just because this fest ends a little earlier, looks like, right? Because, yeah, okay. So Rockville goes to midnight, so everybody's playing a little bit later. That's actually something I didn't even notice until right now. So I might want to see Motionless in White at night, given that they're going to probably have pyro and fire. That's not going to look as cool during the day. So I might come back to that. That actually might settle that for me, and then I'll just have to maybe catch Simple Plan on their tour. I know they're coming to me, or near where I am now. So, or catch half Shinedown, half a Simple Plan. We might come back to that. All right, I don't know how much of that I missed because I looked up and it was still showing Thursday even though I was on Sunday. So we're going to revert this to the original and we'll start here. I'm going to use green for, because it's black, it's kind of hard to see. But I'm going to use green for this is what we're seeing. It's like Megadeth. I already know for sure I'm going to see Megadeth. They are not Godsmack. Megadeth is a must-see for me. Now, I might leave a little bit early this night, although it is only until 11 o'clock, so I guess that's not too bad. But I have to work the next day, and I have to work in the morning. So I might end up dipping out a little bit early this night, but just to kind of get an idea of where we might be. The only thing I don't really like here is the Shiados versus Megadeth. I've almost seen Shiados 4 times at these festivals, and there's always a conflict, or it ends up being a day that I had to cancel. They were playing Rockville last year, actually, and I was like, I couldn't go that Sunday because I had something going on. And that was the first day I missed in 5 years. So I was like, of course. And then they were playing a show right next to me recently, and it was on a night I couldn't get off. But it just is what it is. There's a few must-see bands on here for me. So other than Megadeth, Megadeth's one undisputed conflicts. I'm gonna catch Lamb of God. Even though, again, this is during the day. I'm kind of reconfiguring some of my decisions based on that now. Because, like I said, days are longer here, too, during the summer. So, Florida's pretty consistently between, 11 to 13 to 14 hours of sunlight. So, it gets dark around, 8. I think sundown here in Ohio is, way later. So, sundown in Columbus, let's see, May, what is this? 20th or 17th is at 8:42. So there's not going to be that many bands playing in the dark. It's going to be mostly during the day festival. So something I didn't really consider necessarily. Let's see. So Motionless is playing late. Lamb of God's playing at 6:50. It's still going to be daylight during that too. That kind of sucks. That's a weird time to put in Lamb of God either way. It's going to be during the sunlight. So that doesn't really make a difference to me, I guess. All right. And then the other one that I'm putting as a must-see or I already know is Ailstorm. They're pirate metal. And then we'll catch Amon Amarth after that, I guess, if nothing else pops up. I would like to see Census Fail, but the timing just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I get it. But since I won't be catching Lamb of God, probably won't be catching Lamb of God, I think this just makes more sense. And I think that honestly is it for me. I don't really see anybody that I'm dying to see early in the day that's going to make me head out that early. So this is kind of another, I can't believe I missed Public Enemy. So with that, I'll probably catch Apocalyptica also. I didn't even need 2 colors. So that's pretty much my schedule. I actually ended up with a mostly packed day. I'll have a break between Public Enemy and Apocalyptica. So that's cool, and probably not catching Godsmack. I'm not a Godsmack person. And then at the top here, since I'm not seeing Tool, we will also, not what I wanted to do. go ahead and highlight Dragon Force and Death Clock, because Death Clock is playing at the same time as Guns N' Roses, so I won't really get to catch them. It looks horrible. Is this gonna work? Okay, cool, this works. So let's get rid of all this crap over here and re-highlight Death Clock. All right, I like that. I actually think this turned out pretty decently, given the situation. Now it does help that I'm going to both festivals, but a couple last conflicts kind of solved. Honestly, this Motionless in White one is probably going to stay, but so we can go ahead and kind of definitively decide what we're going to do from here. So I also noticed Stain. Why is Stain only playing 40 minutes? Stain's only playing 40 minutes here, but for like an hour. That's really strange. I don't know why there's such a massive difference, but anyway, I don't need an hour of Stained anyway. But we'll go ahead. We will make Stained. Ooh, that's actually easier. Yes, I didn't know you could do that. All right, so we'll make Stained blue. We are not going to make the highlight that emphatic. Turn the opacity down a little bit. Looks pretty good. And we can erase Apocalyptica. All right, I'm going to erase Stain too because that looks like crap. There we go. All right, and then we can erase the Death Clock Mayday Parade. You know, that's good. So Thursday, that's kind of our schedule. We're sticking mostly to Apex and Octane, kind of boring, basic stuff. But, you know, we'll make up for it throughout the rest of the weekend. So we'll do that. We're going to go ahead and try and resolve some of these conflicts now. Let's see. Let's take a look at this. How do I want to do this? Probably catch. You know what? We'll do Turnstile. We'll give them some respect. We'll do Turnstile. We're gonna erase that. Turnstile over Zach Sabbath. We're gonna have to walk anyway, so you know, give myself a little bit of a break probably during Turnstile, but we'll go ahead and do that. This early in the day one's kind of giving me trouble too. Like, I'm just gonna make all three blue, and then what I'm gonna do is just during the day, I'm gonna try and probably figure out how I want to time leaving the warning to go to Drowning Pool and then come to Hollywood Undead. I'm gonna figure all that out on the day of, so we'll catch all those groups. This ended up being a pretty early day for me. This might not end up coming to fruition. I might end up just going a little bit later, but as of now, because that's a long day in between two long days, so I just don't want to burn myself out too much, especially with the heat being what it is. All right, so here, I think we're gonna wipe a few of these out. I've seen Magnolia Park already, so Breathe Carolina wins this one, and then we're gonna see Lamb of God, even though it's a little bit shorter of a set. What's the time difference on this? They're playing like 45 minutes at Sonic Temple, right? 50, so that's fine. That's only a couple song difference. It's not really a huge deal to me, honestly. Like I said, I've never seen Switchfoot, so they're gonna win this one. And again, this is like a fully like personal taste thing, I know. So this is not what I would recommend to somebody if they were only going to Rock. This is not if I was only going to Rockville. I'm trying to figure out two festivals at the same time. So my situation, obviously, I know is not the most relatable. But with that said, for now, this might change, like I said, with the time being what it is. Also, I just noticed Motionless One gets 10 extra minutes. That's interesting. I don't think that'll actually happen. But we'll go ahead and give Simple Plan the win for right now and Dragon Force. And that way, this will be our day that we spend mostly at this stage. Obviously, we actually are going to be on all 5 stages at one point or another. So for now, like I said, I'm going to give that to them. I might change that on the fly. That might be an on-the-fly change. We will see. Sundays, no conflicts. And then I don't think I have really any. I had a couple conflicts at Sonic on day 1. And that was kind of it. Sonic overall is a little bit lighter of a schedule for me. So we can try and fix it. Let's just knock this out now. Just tentative. Obviously, this can all change on the day of the festival. I'm gonna give this one to Story of the Year, even though I'm already seeing them at at Rockville just because they're one of my favorite bands. And like I said, I've got to see Sublime with Jacob. They're good. Don't get me wrong. But you know, I just in that case, if I hadn't seen them already, it'd be a little bit different. But they don't get the tiebreaker in this specific instance. So, all right, and then I'm gonna pick Dope over Stone Temple Pilots just because I don't think I'm gonna get over to that stage any other time. And I would like to try and catch a show at every stage. I don't think I have anything at Sanctuary. So maybe I'll catch like one of these other bands. Maybe I'll catch like the Ghost Inside or something. But I believe Citadel and Sanctuary are next to each other, right? I'm not 100% sure on that. But or maybe we'll see. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know a lot of these bands that well. I mean, I know like Chelsea Gray. Maybe we'll go. There's too much overlap with the Yellow Card. By the time I get there, set will be almost over. Yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of a side thing. I'm not really torn up about it too much if it doesn't happen, but it would just be cool. So, or maybe we'll see Architects for a little bit. We'll see like 20 minutes of Architects and then come back to bring me the Horizon. It's not a bad idea. All right, but for now. We'll go ahead and do one last rundown. I know this is going to be a really long video. So, Thursday, starting out, welcome to Rockville. We're going to head to the Octane stage, catch All That Remains. Garage stage, go to Cartel after All That Remains ends. So, probably catch about 20 minutes of Cartel. Then there'll be a little bit of a gap. We'll see the first 15 to 20 minutes of Amberlin, and then head to the Apex stage. It's a long walk, so maybe I won't do that. But we'll catch the Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin Evening. Back to the Garage stage, catch Senses Fail. There'll be another small gap before We the Kings, 4:15 to 4:45. And then the rest of the day, we'll catch a Mon Amarth at Octane, over to Apex for Alice Cooper at 5:30. And then at 6:25, we'll see Stained and catch Story of the Year at the Garage stage at 7:55. So we'll have a little bit of a gap in there as well. Maybe catch a little bit of Godsmack at the beginning. But again, that's a long walk to just turn back around and go the other way. So we'll see. Maybe I'll check out Catch Your Breath. I haven't heard from them, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then from the Garage stage, head back to Octane for Five Finger Death Punch at 8:25, and then the big one, we got Guns N' Roses closing things out with a 3-hour set starting at 9:30 to midnight. So long day, pretty much a 12-hour day, but I'm excited for that day. Friday was a day that I was expecting to be kind of less busy, but actually ends up being pretty packed for the most part. Now, again, I'm pretty flexible with this day. I might end up going a little bit later on. But just tentatively, we'll plan at arriving around 3 o'clock, catching Nonpoint at the Garage stage, and then Dope at 4 o'clock at the Garage stage. Head over to The Warning at the Apex stage, 4:25. And then head back to the Garage stage for some of Drowning Pool, and then head back to the Octane stage for Hollywood Undead at some point during their set. Over to Apex for Poppy, back to Octane for Parkway Drive, and then over to the Apex stage for The Offspring, back to the Octane stage for Turnstile, and then back to the Apex stage for the Foo Fighters. I kind of like the way that worked out. That actually turned into a pretty decent day. A lot of groups that I'm going to have to refamiliarize myself with, though, for sure. Saturday. This is the runaround day for sure. We got a set at every stage. So we're starting off with Galactic Empire at 12:20 on the Inferno stage. We'll catch Memphis Mayfire at 1:25 on the Octane stage. That might be when I go to get merch. I might go after Galactic Empire's done and knock out the merch, because that's also Bring the Horizon Day. So that'll be when their headliner tent is. Like I said, Memphis Mayfire, and then we got Breathe Carolina on the Vortex stage at 1:50. A little bit of a gap after their set ends before 303 starts at 2:55, and then we got another gap between them and Waka Flocka Flame. And then jumping over to the Garage stage at 4:45 for 10 Years, back to Octane at 5:15 for Flyleaf, and then there's a 30-ish minute gap before Switchfoot at 6:35. We'll catch Dragon Force on the Inferno stage at 7:20, and then Simple Plan on Vortex at 8:05. Breaking Benjamin at 9:05 on Octane, and then head over to the main stage, Apex stage, where Bring Me the Horizon at 10:20. So we will not be at the Apex stage all day until the headliner. And then, in contrast to Sunday, we'll be at the main stages all day, just doing long laps back and forth. I'll have to figure out how I'm going to do breaks in there, but I mean, that's kind of a play it by ear type situation. So starting with DGD at 255, then Under Oath 340, Coheed and Cambria 425, Sleeping with Sirens 515, All Time Low 605, Yellow Card 655, Rise Against 8 o'clock, Day to Remember 905, and My Chemical Romance at 1020. So I like the way that worked out. That's my Rockville, now Sonic Temple. I'm going to say this right now. I'm probably not going to make the first two that I put down here just because so essentially for Sonic, I'm going to be working that week. I'm going to come back. I'm going to work for like 3 days or 2 days, the Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday I'm going to take off for this. So, yeah, it's just the way it worked out. It might be a little bit slower to get around on that day, but I don't have to deal with lodging or anything like that. I'm going to be driving back and forth to and from Sonic, where I live is within driving distance. So let's just say we're going to start at 255. We'll go with Flyleaf, Coheed and Cambria, The Used, All Time Low, Rise Against, Pierce the Veil, Breaking Benjamin, and My Chemical Romance. So bouncing in between Temple and Cathedral all day on day one. And then on Friday, we're going to start off at 145 with Everclear. It's quite the sentence to say out loud. 220, we'll go ahead and catch Daughtry. We'll have a little bit of a gap in between. Most likely going to end up just at Newfound Glory set because it kills time. Maybe Woe Is Me, actually. Or this might be a good merch time, actually. 350, we'll catch Dope. At 435, we'll catch Yellow Card at the Cathedral and then go into Temple. Hailstorm, back to Cathedral. Chevelle at 615. And then Citadel, Atreyu after Chevelle, essentially. We might split. I might split the last song, but leave Chevelle and head to Atreyu, depending on how far away it is. I'll test out the walk when I get there. And then after Atreyu, head to Seven Dust. Again, maybe cut the end of Atreyu to get there a little bit early. And then after Seven Dust, catch a 45-minute set from Story of the Year at the Citadel. And then head into the Temple for Shinedown to close things out. Saturday, a short and light day. Walter Bridge at 4:30 on the Cathedral. Temple. Actually, I might catch Blackveil Brides in Cold Chamber. Might do that. It's gonna depend. I'll see how I feel that day. But Motionless in White at 5:20. Motion City Soundtrack at 6:15. At the Citadel, and then back to the Temple at Good Charlotte. And then I got a gap. I'm not probably gonna be leaving. I'm probably just gonna get a good spot for Bring Me the Horizon at 9:20. Also, unfortunate. I wish Body Count was not at the same time as Bring Me the Horizon. If it had been at the same time as Tool or even Shinedown, it would have been perfect for me. But if I could have got Body Count and Simple Plan instead, I probably would have cut Shinedown. But that's the one thing that I kind of don't like about this. And then the last day, we got Ailstorm at 3:55 at the Altar. And then Amon Amarth at the Cathedral at 4:40. Lamb of God at 5:25 in the Temple. 6:20, you catch Public Enemy at Cathedral. And then a little bit of a gap before Apocalyptica at 7:35. Cathedral at 8:15 for Megadeth. And then stick at the Altar for Dragon Force and Deathclock. Again, I might leave a little bit early that night. Remains to be seen. But that's tentatively my schedule. So, all right, thank you to everybody who sat through this with me and watched my decision-making process and hung out for this stream. I'm going to try and get back into streaming again here in the next few weeks, get a little bit more consistent. I have a lot more topic ideas and stuff as well. But if you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification button so that way you can see when I go live. And yeah, that'll be it for me. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And let me know what you disagree with. Any of your any of your bands you'd recommend for my dead spots, stuff like that. So yeah, leave that down below.